to deal with memorials. I don't really have points this morning. I'm just going to share a lot of things from my heart. But again, we are planning. We're in planning stages of something that's going to work. It will work if we all work it. It will work. Joshua chapter 4, this is after going to the Canaan land. And verse number 1 said, "And it came to pass when all the people were clean, passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command ye them, saying, Take ye hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's foot stood, or the priest's foot stood firm, 12 stones, you carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where you shall lodge this night. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Israel out of every tribe of man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of Jordan, and take ye of every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of Israel, the children of Israel. That this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer to them, that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto the children of Israel forever." A wonderful passage. In fact, further on, in fact, you'll find in chapter 20, in verse number 21, where that same issue came up, and the question was, when your children see these stones, it's a memorial, and you'll be able to tell them what these stones are. A memorial. I thought about this as we were coming to this day that we're dealing with. That everything that you see around us is a memorial. This pulpit is a memorial. The songs we sing are a memorial. The Sunday school classroom are a memorial. This building is a more memorial. Do you all realize this? In fact, it's in this sense that I would like for our young ones that are coming up to be able to say, okay, what's the purpose of this building? What's the purpose of the Sunday school classroom? What is the purpose of the pulpit? What is the purpose of the offering? What is the purpose of these things we have set up? And as adults, we ought to be able to tell them right off the bat what these are for. Billy Graham said something in 1955 that and I just ran across it just prior to coming in here. But he said, teach your children to know God and bring them up in the church. Very seldom do parents have trouble with their children when the Bible is read regularly in the home, grace is said at the table, and family prayers take place daily. Most trouble with teenagers come from home where prayer is neglected, the Bible's never open, now get this, and church attendance is sporadic. Christ gives moral stability, understanding, wisdom, and patience needed to rear children. He went on further, he said, we are beginning to reap what has been sown. And I put this, we are now reaping what was sown. In 1955, he said they began to see the reaping, what was sown. We are now reaping what was sown. We have taught the philosophy of the devil who says, do as you please. Children have seen the insincerity in the lives of their parents. They watch their parents go to church on a Sunday and live like the devil during the week. So the children have rebelled against religion as a whole. They have turned away from the moral restraint, and many parents are reaping what they have sown. That was a little bit of a message he preached in 1955. I added to this. Now children see the unconcerned attitudes of adults concerning Sunday and church. They don't care. Is it any wonder? And I don't know how many of you have been watching the stupid protesters. The attitude among the protesters in the area of abortion to the third trimester. But it's gone further than that, beyond birth, If a parent decides they don't want the children, then the doctor can just allow that baby to be terminated after birth. The protesters of the gay rights, and we have in fact, I saw something that came across just the other day. You may have seen this, but there is even a fellow that is suing his parents because they gave birth to him without their permission. Did you see that? And his thing is he's suing them for the rest of his life because he didn't get the permission to be born. So now he thinks they're obligated to pay for him for the rest of his life. This is the kind of stuff that's going on, and no wonder this is happening. And I guarantee you, this is happening from people or from kids that were never raised up in church. I guarantee you. The mess, and I told Brother Joe, I said, we better wake up, and I'm not being political, and I don't care who hears it, but we're in trouble if we get a Democratic president. I mean, I know some people ain't going to like that, because you said this has gone over to other countries, but I'm telling you something that we better wake up, and this is coming out of, I believe, a generation that was never raised up in church. Didn't have parents that cared. So I'm going to share with you some things on my heart. So in Joshua chapter 4, verse number 1 through 7, he talked about these memorials. Again, like I said, the church building is a memorial. The songs are memorial. Offerings are memorial. Pulpit is a memorial. The preaching is a memorial. Even the Sunday school classrooms are memorials. There's a purpose in all this. Did y'all realize this? Jamie said something, if there's no purpose, why are we here? Right? If we don't have a purpose, why are we here? And I'll tell you, one of the main reasons that we're here is it's not all about right now. It's about the next generation. It's about the next generation. The purpose of Sunday school. Did you know that's training the next generation? It was interesting. I find it's not harder for me to even be here working a third shift job. I work a third shift job. Y'all know that. Wednesday's the hardest because I leave from here, go and get you know what a power nap is? Y'all heard of a power nap? I leave on Wednesday. I leave here Wednesday night, and I get home and I get a power nap. Then I'm back at work on Wednesday evening, and I get off at Thursday, and so I go back to bed, and then I get up, and it's not very long till it's time for me to go back to work again. But I'm here because I see this is not only an important part of my life, but this is a memorial. So when the young people ask me, preacher, what is this all about? Not only can I tell them what it's about, I can show them I'm concerned about what it's about. But when children ask us, what do all these things mean? What could you honestly tell them? Something else is interesting. I find that people do what they want to do. You ever heard that? I do what I want to do, so I get to where, as a pastor, I hear all these little things why we can't. I was coming by this morning, and the interesting thing of it was I come in and there's a group right down the street. You know what group I'm talking about? Their doctrine is wrong. What they're doing is wrong, and yet the bottom fell out of the clouds, and guess what's happened? They're there. They have a materialistic mentality because they serve a materialistic God. I was checking something out, and the reason why they do what they are doing is because they plan on being a god or goddess one day. It's not about serving Christ, it's about serving themselves, and they're going to be there come hell or high water. They're going to be there. But do you know why and we talk about the things, when I was growing up, we had an important day, which was Sunday. The important day was we started our time off, we heard the bell ringing. If you weren't in church by the time the bell rung, you were late. But we would have Sunday school. We go to Sunday school. I've been to Sunday school practically all my life, and thank goodness I'm going to tell you, I was going to church and Sunday school before my mom and daddy were. And the reason why that was, we had a fellow, and I'd like to see him one day. His name was Snyder. It was Mr. and Miss Snyder, and they lived down the street. And my mom and daddy wasn't going to church. I'm going to share this with you. My mom and daddy wasn't going to church. I don't know that they even cared about going to church, but my mom and daddy didn't go to church. But the Snyders picked me up in the primary class, and I was going to church before they were. And then as I was going to church, the next door neighbors were bugging my mom and dad about going to church. Bugging them all the time. And so Dad got tired of it. He said, the only way we're going to get Farnsworth to shut up about us going to church is just go to church. You ever had those? Just bug you and bug you and bug you and bug you. Anyway, Mom and Dad finally went to church. They got saved. My dad ended up being a deacon at Medela Baptist Church. You know where Medela Baptist Church is, down from Ardella. Twan knows where that church is, down from Ardella. And as time would have it, and God's providence happened, Dad got called in the ministry. He ended up pastoring a church. But I think as a result of the Snyders taking me to Sunday school, and then the Farnsworths dealing with my mom and dad, now my dad went into ministry. But and little did I realize they were training, that Sunday school was training me. But we have to, and again, as we talk about this thing on the future, we got Kenneth coming up, we got Bella coming up, we got Case coming up, Angel's here, and all these young people. They're going to be the next members of this church, hopefully. But for a lot of people, this church never existed. It wouldn't matter. It'd be a building that'll probably just fizzle out. And I like what Jamie said. Finally, it hit you side of the head that, boy, this generation's gone or going to be gone. And then what are we going to do? True. But we need it. And of course, I'm coming to the end of what I'm telling you. This has just been on my heart. And so next week there'll be points. But we all, as members of Mayfield Drive, I'm proud to be a member of this church. I'm proud to be a member of this church. It'll be soon be 13 years I've been here. And that's a rarity for pastors. Mm-hmm. You know what the average, I said this, and you'll probably, as a review, did you know what the average time for a pastor to be in a church?
2 years.
2 years. That's it. 2 years. 2.5. 2 years. And I've been here for 13 years. I remember I told brother Joe, and thank goodness I had so many encouragers along the way. Brother Wayne Bowles. Some of you know Brother Wayne Bowles. He was a great encourager. He would call me every once in a while, and Brother Barney, I can remember that. And he would call, how you doing, brother? And I would talk to him. And then I would talk to Brother Clyde Lanier. And I always considered him as he was my Paul and I was his Timothy. He was my teacher. I was his tormentor. But he would always encourage me. And the times that, I don't know if one of them told you, the times that I was wondering, I was going through some emotional things, and Brother Lanier said, well, are you thinking about leaving because of the way that you're feeling? Or are you wanting to leave because God's moving you? And I'm thinking, I wish he had never told me that. And I dealt with the area when I was dealing, and Katie and Susan and Chris may have remembered this, when I was teaching on the aspect of holiness towards God, and where the prophet said, I saw the Lord high and lifted up in his train field. You remember that? And I called Brother Lanier and I said, brother, this is what I'm preaching on, and I said, I've got some concerns. He said, brother, I want to warn you, and he said, I want to caution you. He said, they're all going to hear it. He said, most of them are not going to like it. They'll either come against you or they'll leave. But he said, you're going to have a few of them that'll stick with you, and they're hanging. And thank goodness I had a few that did that. Thank goodness I had an encourager that said, hang in. That's why he was my Paul. In fact, Paul wrote Timothy, and he said, hang in there. Mm-hmm. Stay with that church. Preach the gospel. Be in season, out of season. They're going to be coming against you. And I hung in. Thank goodness for that. I remember it was interesting. Sam, I'll never forget this. The look on yours and Michael's face when, remember we were going down to Florida in view of a call? And she had that look like, oh no. Oh no. But that's not where God would have me to be. But there's some things. First of all, we need to. There's 4 things I want you to remember. Number 1 is it's been said more than half of the church members in America don't have a biblical understanding of church membership. I want to change that. One thing is we can find out what is it involved. What does it mean to be involved of a member of Mayfield Drive Baptist Church? If you go in the vestibule, if you go in that first room when you come out and you look on the wall, we call it the church covenant. That's what it means to be a member of Mayfield Drive Baptist. That's the basics of it. If we follow the basics of that church covenant, we'll be doing all right. But number 2 is we need to raise the bar of expectation. We need to adhere to what the church covenant says and not dumb it down. We need to raise the bar of our expectation. I need to raise the bar of my expectation. I need to do what God would have me to do. Not worrying about what other people are not doing, but do what God would have me to do. The past is in the past. In fact, he said, I press on for the mark of the high calling. Forget about those things which are in the past. I think he said something like that, brother. Forget about those things which are in the past, but press on for the mark of the high calling. My wife reminds me of that quite a bit. I got to quit worrying about the past. Nothing can change the past. But we can sure have an effect on the future. The third thing is we need to mentor one another. Amen? We need to mentor one another. We need to encourage one another. In fact, Paul wrote something of this nature as we see the day approaching. We need to encourage one another. We need to encourage one another. We need to let people know how glad they are, how glad we are that they're there. We need to mentor them. In fact, I'll tell you what we need to really do. We need to mentor these young people. They're looking to us. It's funny. Jamie was telling me, and he was talking about working with young people, and it scared him half to death. I said, it's a good training ground. I learned one thing with young people is you just, if they're on a slip and slide and they're in the mud and they're in the crud and they're all that stuff, guess what? You need to be in the mud and the crud and the slip and slide and everything else. Got to mentor some of the kids that don't look and act and smell right. But we need to mentor them. We need to be involved. In fact, we got the training ground. We got some of the best training ground. And with plans that are ahead. I know I sound like the president, but I'm not meaning to. But I mentioned to you some things we talked about, and we'll be bringing more of that to you next Sunday, so the church can vote on that. And again, it will work. I think there's like 14 different things we want to share with you. It will work if we work it. But we need to be involved in Sunday school. Sunday school students, and I heard this. Did you know Sunday school students are more likely to have a servant's heart? Isn't that interesting? But the thing about it is, we need to realize that we need to be training. And I thought about this also, and I mentioned this. Did you know that this may be our last door of opportunity to see something happen? We've had many times doors open, and many times doors are closed. But this may be the last door of opportunity. And if we become apathetic, we shortchange our children. Follow me? If we become apathetic, we shortchange our children. And if we're not excited about this church, our children won't be excited about it.
That's right.
They won't get excited. They watch us. I saw this, and it's very interesting that I'm looking forward to the days when I can go back to camp. I enjoyed that. But the one thing about it is, if you get excited about things like camp, things about church and all this, the children find it is exciting. I believe that. The songs that we sing, like that song, Jesus, Jesus.
There's something about that name.
Yeah, but the song, and Jamie was saying, what was that little thing you were in that, sweetest thing, that part. I can't do it now because we're not, but I got excited about that song. But when we become excited about what we believe, it'll have a positive impact upon our children. When I remember years ago, And I'll never forget this. I had one of the men ask me, he said, "Preacher," he said, "I'd love to see young people in his church." I thought, hot dog. There's a door of opportunity. Hot dog. I'd like to see church. I'd like to see lots of young people. And I said, I would too. I said, but if we have young people, we've got to work on them. We've got to work with them. We've got to work them. We can't just have them come. We've got to work with them. And did you know, never volunteer. Yesterday my flame was lit up again. A door of opportunity. I'll put it this way right here. I told Brother Joe as we got leaving, I said, I'm just curious to see what God's going to do. Leave the consequences to Him. I would love to see one day my 2 grandkids, Case and Kenneth. And then we've got Xavier and Ella. We've got Ella and Bella. But we look at them as young now. They are the next members of this church. And if we don't get it going, guess where they're going to end up going? There'll be 1, 2 things. They won't go, or they'll go someplace where they won't get the right doctor. I saw something come in the mail, and there's a church, I think they're having the door prizes. You can win a door prize. Everybody's heading before a door prize, hunting equipment and this and that. Those are temporary things, but what really will last through eternity is what we teach our kids. Mm-hmm. Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here this morning, and just pray that you'll just help us to see that what we do here is not a memorial, not only a memorial, but Father, help us to see that it's important that we hang and we keep on keeping on for the future of the next generation. Father, we don't need the generation that's sitting in our